Hello, welcome in everybody to I hope this works edition of the Always Irish Show. As always, thank you for joining me, everybody in the chat. I appreciate it. I'm going to need your help tonight. I need you guys to tell me as we go through this, can you hear me? Can you see me? Is everything clear? We're going to try the call-in part of this, and I want you guys to tell me if you could hear me, if my volume's good, if the other people, you could hear it all. I want to know. So I'm going to ask for your Stylite, shut up. And already you're doing this stuff. I really want you guys to be able to get your voices heard through the chat and through the phones. Okay. So, Brendan, I know I don't look good, but I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Loud and clear. I got a mixer. I got all kinds of stuff going on, and we're going to see if it works. So, here's what we're going to do. I would like the topic today to be, what do you think about the Notre Dame offense? What do you think about the quarterback situation? I want to know what you think about this stuff long-term and short-term. How do we win the game this week? And also, how do we look out for the future? What does that look like as well? We got two different avenues we got to go over at the same time. No, I did not dye my beard. This gray is Notre Dame gray. I earned that gray. I do not dye my beard red. That would be the weirdest thing for anybody to do. The least of my concerns is my beard color. Stylite, good to know that's important to you, though. Ryan, the offense is limited by the offensive line. There's no doubt about that. That's for sure. But how do you get out of that? How do you get out of that? We got to win games this year. We got to win a game this week. Long term, here's the other thing with this offensive line situation. Am I just supposed to think it's the worst Notre Dame offensive line I've seen forever? And then next year, it's magically just going to be fine when we show up at the Horseshoe? Is that what I'm supposed to think? Because I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I can believe that. I'm sorry. I just don't. So, Craig, good to see you in here. Craig, you're a good dude. I love Craig. I'm going to be seeing Craig in a couple weeks. By the way, everybody, if you're going for USC, I'm going to be there all weekend. I got an Airbnb. We're going to be there Friday night, Saturday night, leaving back for Illinois Sunday. So if anybody's in town for USC, let's hang out. Let's go out. I'm trying to hit the town. Pigskin Pete. Here's the deal. I see Pigskin Pete in here. I got to thank him a lot that he has been further down the YouTube college football road than I have. And whenever I've had a question or how do I set something up, how do I do something, he's been more than willing to take the time and help me through it. Pigskin Pete, legit good dude. Hopefully, he could join me at Notre Dame for Clemson Notre Dame. It didn't work out last time. Maybe next time it will. D-Rock, good to see you. Stylite, I knew you were going to be in here. And the second I see your mom's number come up on the call screener, I'm going to block your ass forever. That's what you're going to get because I know you're going to mess around here. Pigskin Pete, good. We'll put our plan together like we did last time, except this time we'll actually be able to go. Timothy, am I staying at a neighborhood for the game? I got an Airbnb and the guy said it's like 7 minutes from campus. So it's somewhere in South Bend. I don't know. It looked like a nice place, but that's it. So I don't know. Pigskin Pete is the man, says Brody. I agree with that, actually. I really do. What else do we have here? Nick Dean sent me an email. I'll check that. O-line, Mike Sloan. That's my question. I don't understand if the offensive line situation is poor development, poor talent evaluation. I can't say guys aren't trying, but it's just brutal. It's brutal. All the guys that are not performing well now on the offensive line are 4-star guys. 4 stars. So just raw talent from all of them being 4 stars. Move somebody. Move somebody. I'm not asking for too much. Buckner isn't ready, you don't think? Well, the thing is, they don't think Buckner's ready. They bring him in there. It's a guaranteed run play, essentially. And so nobody could do anything because they're scared to let him throw. They don't think he's ready. He doesn't throw. Whenever he comes in, it's a run play. Everybody knows it. We know it. Coaches know it. The other team knows it. Happened the other day. We are getting pushed all over the field, and I'm really getting sick of it. Here's the other thing, too. We're all still grieving from last week. Listen, you thought this show was bad after one loss. What's going to happen when I can't even process the idea of 2 in a row. But you're going into a hostile, loud environment. If 1993 rock and roll intimidates you, look out, because we're going to have some of that going on. So I don't know, but you got to find a way to not let one loss snowball on you to where you end up with 4 or 5 before. I don't even want to think about it. Figure something out. Block people. Block people. Okay? Yeah, Stylight, I'm going to make you a mod. You will filter through all the legitimate callers and only let people trolling me call. That's what would happen if I put you in charge of that project. Okay? No. Tosh Baker makes me sad. All of this offensive line stuff makes me sad. Your biggest strength you're known for is now your biggest weakness. And I find that very, very disturbing and upsetting. Okay. Henry says 8-4, book it. Hey, based on how we are playing right now, anything's possible. You can't trust this team in any way. I can't trust them because they haven't earned it. So I'm on alert for everything from everybody. Okay? It's rough out here. Glad to hear my voice is back. I had a major problem. I did that initial outburst and yell after Cincinnati, and it messed my throat up, and I was struggling the rest of the hour. But whatever, it is what it is. It's not like I chose to yell. It just happens. It just came out. Okay? Just came out. Now, here's the other thing, too, is, and there's 2 discussions, a larger scale one and a smaller one. People were asking me about coaching changes and stuff after this year. I don't know. I'm going to give them this year. Let's see what happens. But if some things don't pick up in a positive way, there are a few areas in this team you got to look at other options. Benny, John's on heart attack watch. When am I not? Who isn't watching Notre Dame? Everybody's on heart attack watch. Some people might just not know it. I know it. That's the other thing. Listen, is Jack, don't encourage me to throw things in my studio and wreck my own place again. Okay. But we got problems you can't have 12 years in. We have problems. Yeah. Urban Meyer will be available. I think Urban Meyer is causing so much drama. Even USC might not want him. Even Hollywood might not want his drama. That's how much drama there is. Okay. So I think Urban needs to just stop all of this. He's won championships. He's rich as anybody could want to be. So right off into the sunset. I'm sick of the drama everywhere he goes. It follows him everywhere. Pigskin Pete, thank you, man. I really appreciate your friendship. Urban is a legend. He won a lot, but every year that goes by, I like him less because it's more and more BS, drama, and problems every turn of the way. Okay? Oh, my brother's in here. So what? Mom's watching. Watch my language. I can't promise that, and you know that. You know that. Fake heart attack time. I could promise you this. Any reaction you see on any show that I do, there ain't nothing faked. If you guys can't tell that, I can't just turn a switch and start losing my mind. That just happens. It just happens. Okay, so here is what we are going to do now. I opened up the call bank. We are now on the air. You want to talk some Notre Dame ball giveaways, Irish, a call. 312-900-8815 is the number. Here's the deal. A couple things to keep in mind as we try the call in for the first time. Number one is help me in the chat with the sounds. Make sure my volume is about the same as the person calling, that you could hear and see everything. If there's an echo, if anything's off, put it in the chat so that I could work on it and figure it out. Okay, so let me know as we go if you could hear everything, if it's clear, if there's an echo, all that kind of stuff. Here's the other thing. If you call in, keep the cursing down, please. Little stuff, fine. No F-bombs. I'm going to have to drop you. I do not care. I am not offended by any of these words. YouTube does not always feel the same way. You can lose some of your ability to make ad revenue. You don't show up in the search algorithm if they sense a bunch of curse words in your content. So if you come on, try and not say the F word at least. I'm going to have to dump you. I'm just going to have to dump you. The other thing, while you were on hold, I believe you will be able to hear the show through your phone. So if you got a laptop going or something as well, turn that down. You could see it, and then you'll hear it through your phone. Okay. You should be able to do that unless there's so many calls that there's not enough lines, and then you might have to call back when somebody drops. But that's how it's set up, I believe. Okay. If you troll me, you better make it good because you're dropped and blocked. So if you are trolling me, make it rich and make it good your first attempt, because then I'm dumping you and that number's blocked, whether it's restricted, constricted, I don't care what it is, you're getting dropped. Okay. So that is what's up with that. All right, let's try this. South Bend, Indiana caller. I think I know who this is. Who this?
John, Craig.
Craig, what's up, brother?
Hey, there's a lot of rules, man. I don't know. I have to jump off.
The only thing I said is no F-bombs, Craig. You can handle that.
I know. I'm just yanking your chain. Hey, man, I want to say thanks for taking my call, first of all. And you've come a long way since I started listening to you about 4 years ago. And when I first heard you, I was like, oh, shoot, man, my voice is finally being shared through this guy, and I've been hooked ever since. So now we all get to share our takes through this fantastic platform that you've created, and I just want to say congratulations, my friend.
Craig, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody that's jumped on Always Irish and gotten in on this, but a special appreciation for people that have been there from day one, minute one, before it was anything major, and it was just me yelling in the original format, no video and all that. And the people that were in from there and watched this grow, I'm forever indebted. And here's the other thing, Craig. I would never have met you if it wasn't for this show. We've had lunch at Notre Dame. We're friends. We're going to hang out in a couple weeks for SC. I've met so many great people I never would have met if it wasn't for this show. That's a great extra benefit blessing. So, Craig, I'll see you in a couple weeks, and I really appreciate you. What do you want Notre Dame to do at quarterback, Craig?
Well, I
Did I lose you?
Yeah. Yeah, it did go blank for a second. But I heard your question, what do I want Notre Dame to do at quarterback? I got to say, man, I think that Pine has earned his spot. And some say he didn't play well either compared to Cone and Buckner. But come on, he was put in a couple of crappy spots 2 weeks in a row, just to try to dig them out of that funk. And I thought that he did great with what he had to work with, especially the O-line. And I think he's earned his spot. He's paid his dues. He looks sharp. The whole entire team has a different enthusiasm when he's in there. I mean, come on, give this guy a shot to start a game. I think if he started last week, they would have won.
There's a good argument for that if he would have started, that we would have won the game. Here's how I look at this right now. It is not an ideal situation to be 12 years in, not have a clear quarterback that you prefer, that you can rely on. Not ideal. Okay. Cone is best served with an offensive line. He could sit back there, distribute, do his progressions, throw the ball. He needs time to be able to be the best he could be. Time ain't going to happen with this offensive line. That's out. Time ain't going to happen, Craig. You have no time, okay? So, under that, then I look at the other two guys. They don't seem to trust Buckner yet to be able to throw the ball, run the full offense. That makes him a run-only option. So that leaves me in a position where the only guy we have that can do both is Pine. That's how I arrive at this conclusion. Does that make sense? It's just a basic way to look at it.
Well, it does make sense. And you mentioned Cone, and my question about Cone is, did Cone even vet the Notre Dame QB opportunity and consider the upcoming O-line, or was he just excited to come and play at Notre Dame? Because if he's unhappy, if he gets bumped to second or third string, it's on him as much as anyone else. I think he had to have looked into who was going to be blocking for him, and it couldn't have looked all that good. I don't know.
Here's my thought,
opinion.
Craig. Here's what I think happened. I think they were recruiting him with some other teams as this transfer kind of gap quarterback for this transitional year. And I guarantee you everything was fine. And they just said, listen, we're offensive line you. We lost a bunch of guys, but we're going to be able to transition new guys in and not have a very much of a regression from the level we were at. That just hasn't happened. Now, some of it's bad luck, Craig. Guys got hurt. Blake Fisher, I was all thrilled about him. He got injured in the first game, and now we're on like our fourth left tackle. I know that's unfortunate, but I guarantee you, Kelly, everybody just said, we're offensive line you. We're going to be fine there. Don't worry about it. Here's the other thing, Craig. I don't like this, but it's my feeling. I got a strong feeling in these discussions. Kelly probably said to him, I'm not promising, but I'm just saying you're probably going to have first shot to be the starting quarterback. I guarantee that was a part of this. What kid's going to have one more year of eligibility and go somewhere where he might ride the bench? It makes no sense. So I think there was probably some sort of directly stated, or maybe not so much, but implied, if you do this and you come to Notre Dame, you'll have the first crack to be the starter. Now, I think that's how this went. But now we're in a position where things have changed. And you can't have loyalty to that extent at the point where we're at. You need to just stop the bleeding. And it's just not Jack Cone right now. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, I totally disagree. And you mentioned the loyalty that Brian Kelly has to the people around him. I think that's his downfall. I think it's a weakness. I mean, look, I like Tommy Reese. I'm sure he's a good guy, but I think that he's in there because Brian Kelly's loyal to him. He had this conversation with Cone and well, maybe he didn't promise, but he probably gave him some pretty strong signals that he would be the starter and he would have O-line U blocking for him, which, it obviously didn't happen. I think that if I'm hearing rumors that Cohn's going to start this weekend, and if that happens, that's a loyalty weakness that Brian Kelly has, and there are a lot of people that are going to go bananas if Cohn starts this next game.
Craig,
I don't know what you feel about it.
Craig, you do know what I feel about it. It can't happen, okay? Because here's how I look. Here's the other way I look at this, Craig. Here's another way I look at it. Is I said before this season, if you're going to go with this super senior guy as the starter, fine. If he's clearly better than the younger options in terms of winning now mode, and that's it. He has to be discernibly better than the younger guys. Otherwise, you're wasting development. If you start Pine and you lose, at least he's developing. I'm still going to be miserable, but he's developing for next year. When I got Cohn as a super senior, throwing that pick in the end zone to start the game that changed everything and made the tone negative and jump-started this nightmare, when that happened, I can't have that from a super senior. You're in here because you're the guy who's not going to make that mistake. If you're going to make that mistake, I'd rather have it be the young kid that he can at least develop from it. So in 2 or 3 years, we don't see that. It's a development. So the lack of his ability to escape with this offensive line's a problem. And just the way he's playing isn't way better than the other guys. If they start Cohn, Kelly's reasoning will be, I could see it now. This is the most Brian Kelly answer ever. He's going to say, we wanted to ease him in, ease Pine in, and that night game environment at Virginia Tech with the loud crowd and everything, that wasn't the place to start Pine. We had to go with the experience. Craig, that is the most Kelly thing ever. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong about that being the most Kelly thing ever, but if Kelly and Reese, if they're going to be doing this flip-flopping merry-go-round of quarterbacks, why not give Pine a chance to start? And if it doesn't work out, then put Cohn in. I mean, you're flipping quarterbacks around anyway. Give Pine a chance to start. That's all I think they should do. That's what I'm saying.
I just think this, Craig, this in and out every other play, 3 quarterbacks in, not even full series, but 1 play here. It comes off like they're just rolling the dice, praying they land on the right quarterback, the right play call, and happen to get the blocking to be able to run it. And they're hoping something will stick, and it hasn't. And even when it has, in the middle of having rhythm, they'll pull Pine and it makes no sense. All this rotation causes chaos. Here's my plan. Say that we need to stop the chaos going on offense. And the offensive line chaos, there's not that much you can do about right now. Control what you can control. Tell Pine.
But I'm sure you've seen the kind of time that Pine gets compared to Cohn and Buckner. I mean, somehow Pine is getting more time than any of those 3, which gives him more opportunity.
And if he doesn't get time, he can at least escape and run. And he's going to have to. But I'm all for calming things down, build a little offense around what Pine could do best, what he's comfortable at, build that out, and build it with the idea of making play calls that rely as little on the offensive line as possible. Whether those are little option looks with Pine or quick slants and quick crossing routes, a bunch of well-blocked screens, blocked well by the outside guys, not the inside, obviously. I just think we need to calm this down. But if they run Jack Cohn out there and tell me that's the best chance to win this week, Craig, I'm telling you, I'm going to lose it. You can't. Who can tell me Jack Cohn's the best option right now to win games? Who?
Notre Dame Nation is going to lose it.
But it's in it, and it's not all on Cone. It's not all his fault. There's just a bunch of bad factors. There's a bunch of bad all mixed in the blender together.
But I think part of it, as I said earlier, part of it is his fault for not vetting the situation a little bit more before deciding to come here. I mean, he had to have seen who was going to block him. I know there were some injuries, but, you know, there probably could have been some other schools where there was a more veteran line in front of him where he would have been more productive. So I don't know. You know how Notre Dame is. There's an allure to that. And then, you know, you've got Brian Kelly whispering in your ear and maybe making promises. I don't know. But
the other thing is, Craig, I don't remember what the market was for Jack Cone. I don't remember. Henry, thank you very much for the super chat, and Alex as well. I don't know what the market was for Cone. He seems like a great kid. This is just a confluence of multiple bad things that have all crashed down on us all at once. And it's a tough way to navigate. And doing so in the environment we're going into this week, coming off a loss, you're going to learn a lot about the resiliency and leadership of this team, Craig. You going to come out and look like crap right away under those bright lights? Or are you going to come out mad, ready to change it? What do you think? How are we going to come out after that scary, intimidating rock and roll music? Oh, look out. I'm so scared.
Hey, does Dexter Williams have an extra year of eligibility? Oh, no, he went pro for a couple years.
Yeah, no
love
kidding.
To have him come back and run one back. But, yeah, those days are over. I'm not so sure we're going to be close to seeing anything like that. I'm not real confident in how this game is going to end up. So, you know, maybe Kelly should actually opt to kick the ball off to start the game rather than receive. So, you know, something different. He's just got to change things up. And I don't know. I'm not feeling good about this game. But that will I will feel better about this game if Pine starts. I won't feel good if Cone starts. Nothing against Cone. Like I said, he's a great talent. He's a great guy. But, you know, the team's just not built for his style, in my opinion. It's better built for Pine. So I'm gonna stick with that. And just like I'm sticking with Marcus Freeman and his defense, that loss last week was not on his defense. And I'm excited about his future, but I know that's for another show.
Yeah, and with Pine,
if you've got other
with Pine, Craig, I don't feel great about Pine starting either in this environment as a young kid. I don't like that either, but I like it more than the alternative. It's all bad options. There's no good options. It's which option do I feel less bad about at this point. Yeah. So it isn't. And we haven't. I feel bad for Cone. It isn't all his fault, but geez, come on.
Yeah, I do too. And we haven't even thrown Buckner in there too much in this conversation. I mean, he's got so much potential. I mean, when that guy takes off and runs, he runs hard and fast. Now, we don't know if he can throw yet because they don't use him for pass plays. So
Craig, it depends who you talk to. It depends who you talk to, Craig. Some people tell me, oh, the kid could be unbelievable, and other people say he can't complete a pass in practice. So I don't know what to believe with Buckner. I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, we don't know. And I just don't understand the offensive scheme. You know, there's no identity. We've talked about that. And it's quite a shame. I mean, it's just really disappointing this far in. And you should be reloading, not rebuilding. And it's not, I don't know. It frustrates me.
I know. Me. Well, that's why my hair. That's why my hair's falling out.
I have your show to vent through. So,
well, I appreciate that. Manuel, $50 super chat. You mad Irishman? You are my official always Irish therapist. If I'm your therapist, you got problems, buddy. But I appreciate that. So, Craig, I really appreciate you calling. It's appropriate. You were the first one. You've been here since day one. I appreciate you, and we'll be hanging out a couple weeks from now in South Bend.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. And thanks for having me. This is a fantastic platform. You deserve it. You're knocking it out. And go Rocket, man. I'm gonna head off now and let somebody else chime in.
I appreciate that. See you in a couple weeks, Craig.
All right, buddy.
Melvin J, $10 super chat. I appreciate that. Kelly just doesn't like pine. Don't know what it is, but listen to Kelly when he speaks about him. Kelly does not want an Ian Book clone. That's interesting. That's interesting. I just think this week he's the best option. I'm sorry. I'm not saying it's a great option. I just think it's the best option. Okay, we got another caller from, you guessed it, South Bend, Indiana. Welcome in. You're on Always Irish Radio. Who dis?
Hey, it's Kevin out of South Bend. How are you, John?
Good, Kevin. Thank you for calling. What's new in South Bend, my friend?
Well, I got to say this first and foremost. I'm 29, lifelong Notre Dame fan. I'm a newfound listener to your program. I love what I'm hearing. I love watching the videos on YouTube. And I got to give a special shout out to your boy, Craig, who got me hooked on your show in the first place. So I just got to lay that out first and foremost for you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Everybody, we've gained a lot of subscribers this year. I really appreciate it. So I don't know why, but I'm glad people can relate. This is a therapy session, man. We just talk it out. I just talk out what I'm feeling. That's it. And I'm glad other people, it hits you. I'm just glad.
And you know what I really appreciate is that you call it like you see it. You're not sugarcoating the Shamrock. You're not anti-Notre Dame. You call a fair game. And when Notre Dame's doing well and they deserve the credit, you call it like you see it. And when they're not doing so well, you call it like you see it. And I wish that other media outlets locally and nationally would actually have that for a backbone.
You know what I think that comes down to is when you're doing what I'm doing and you're in my position, there's positives and negatives. One negative of my position is I'm just a regular guy. I am not in the inner circle of Notre Dame media where I'm at practices, in press conferences. I'm there every day seeing things. I don't have that. That's a negative when it comes to reporting the news and all that kind of stuff. On the flip side, though, because I am not beholden to anybody over at Notre Dame, it's freeing. I don't have to answer to anybody. I have no access to lose. I could say whatever I want, not worry that the coach isn't going to call on me in a press conference or not give me access. So there's a freedom to being an independent YouTuber to where I have nobody to answer to. So that is very freeing, and I love it. I never plan on changing it. I just want to be able to do my own thing.
Well, that's awesome, man. And like I say, I give you a lot of credit for everything that you do. And yeah, I love the fact that you call it like you see it. And I just wish that other people, both associated with Notre Dame and unassociated with Notre Dame, locally and nationally, would have similar ways of expressing their opinion without feeling beholden, to or against Notre Dame. But what I was calling about is, it's kind of following up a little bit on what Craig and you were talking about moments ago. And the thing that kind of stuck out to me a little bit during the off season was when it was announced that Cohen was transferring from Wisconsin over to Notre Dame. And I kind of scratched my head a little bit because when you look at the Notre Dame depth at quarterback, there's a lot of young guys, a lot of young talent. And, in other years, perhaps maybe it's not such a big deal, but, you got a guy in Jack Cohen, which I think he's a good quarterback, a solid quarterback in another system. I think if he had an offensive line that could block for him and protect for him, he'd probably be an all right quarterback and could probably, do much better in terms of production for the university. But unfortunately, when he's running for his life every other play, it's not going to end well for him. And I think when you look at what we've seen, at least through the first 5 games of the season, to me, it's obvious that Pine should be the guy that should be QB number 1. Now, obviously, that's to be determined. There's a lot of Brian Kelly and some of his ways about going about things that sometimes don't sit well with some of us. And granted, we don't get the privilege of seeing the practices and what goes on behind closed doors when the media is not there to film and report on it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you got a guy that's a graduate transfer coming over as a super senior, and you got a bunch of youth, talented youth in the ranks at Notre Dame. After this year, there is no more Cohn. And it doesn't matter if he's good, bad, or anywhere in between. I felt that when you go into this season, you need to start preparing for the future, either through Buckner or through Pine. And I just kind of feel like, to a certain extent, the coaching staff really muffed this whole deal up.
Yeah, I get it in theory. Cohn would have been great with our offensive line from last year. He would have been good in that environment. But the situation we're in right now does not match his strengths. It does not allow him to be comfortable and play his best game. And that sucks. And it's not all his fault. But at the same time, you're a super senior. You can't throw that interception last week. Like, I know the offensive line's bad and all that. That's all true. But you can't make that mistake when you're the super senior. I could get that from a freshman, right, and at least he's developing too. So it's a bad confluence of events. Cohn seems like a great kid. I get why they did this in theory. It's just not working out the way we wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I get it. From an experience standpoint, you're thinking, hey, this is a guy who's got many years under his belt. He knows how to read defenses. He knows how to handle, crowds that maybe aren't exactly the most friendly, on the road in certain environments. But, unfortunately, I just think Cohen is just a bad fit for the current team. And even if, let's say, best case scenario, let's say none of our offensive linemen were hurt. Let's say they were all performing to their best. I just don't know. I really just kind of feel like this was a year that we were supposed to take a bit of a step backwards. Now, granted, I don't think that it was going to be a drastic step backwards. I wasn't expecting anything like, a 4 or 5 loss team. I was thinking at worst 3 losses, and it might be, the casual big game blunder that is accustomed to a Brian Kelly coached Notre Dame team. It seems like we have that every year or every other year at the very least. And then, you figure Wisconsin going into the season was supposed to be a pretty tough out. And, USC always seems to kind of give us fits. Obviously, Wisconsin's not very good. USC is in turmoil. So, a lot of things didn't quite develop the way many expected preseason. And, like you said, who knows with this team? You can't trust this team right now, and you don't know what you're going to get Saturday. My gut feeling tells me that I think Brian Kelly's going to start Pine. I think the chorus is just too loud. If he doesn't start Pine, I wouldn't say absolutely dumbfounded or surprised, but I would think that would speak to the tone deafness of Kelly and as it relates to the program and the fan base.
It comes down to, I can't honestly say starting Cohn gives us the best chance to win right now. That's what it all boils down to, right, for a lot of reasons. If we don't see Pine start, it's going to be bad. Cause to me, that's your only option right now. You need a guy who can run and throw to escape death, beheaded, and to move the ball. So I just think you need that. So do you think, how do we handle the environment Saturday night? If you had to bet money on it, do we come out, look totally out of sync, timeout to start the game, 2 false starts, illegal movement? What do you think? Do we handle it, or do we come out and it looks bad? What would you guess if I made you gamble money? How do we start this game?
Well, It's funny you say that because I did gamble a little bit on the upcoming game this weekend, and I was using DraftKings as my sport book or my betting book, and they had Notre Dame as a favorite by 1, and I took Notre Dame to cover that, and I took Notre Dame on the money line. But I think, given as bad as things looked against Cincinnati this past week, I think Kelly, with the amount of criticism that is being hurled at him and the program right now, I'm not going to say that Notre Dame comes out and that they're just going to light the world on fire and play a flawless game. I just don't see that happening. But I think Notre Dame's going to come out. They're going to play a much more polished game. I think there's going to be times where it's going to get frustrating. I think you're going to have silly little mistakes rear their ugly heads. I think you're going to have obvious inexperience show up at maybe some of the most inopportune times. But I think Notre Dame ekes out a tough, hard-fought win. But that's only if Pine starts. If he goes with Cohen, all bets are off at that point. I don't see them winning if Cohen plays, or if he starts at the very least.
Yeah, I just think it's tough right now. And every time I get asked or a direct message on Twitter or whatever, what's your prediction for the game? I always respond with stress. Stress is my prediction for the game. Like, even if we win, I anticipate this being a stressful, tight ball game that we're all uncomfortable with. And I'm already agitated coming off last week. And then if we do this back and forth or come out looking bad, things are going to get rough. So I am looking to see our resiliency, our leadership. I want to see if they're mad about what happened last week. I want to see it because I have a lot of questions, and this is a great opportunity for them to bow up and fight back. But if they don't, it's a really big red flag. And where do you go from there? Where do you go from there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and if you go back and you look at the game, as much as I know you've analyzed and dissected and reconstructed and everything from this past week with the Cincinnati debacle, honestly, you look at that game, for as bad as things looked, that game was still very much winnable, given as everything had played out. I mean, Cincinnati missed 2 critical field goals. They left 6 points on the field. Notre Dame had a couple big drops. If Notre Dame makes a couple more plays, suddenly that game, I'm not saying Notre Dame would have necessarily won, but maybe they didn't lose, 24-13 like they did. It looks worse when you watch the film than what the scoreboard would indicate, at least from my vantage point. And maybe I'm not looking at things through a clear prism, but it was bad. It was bad. It was heartbreaking. It was frustrating. It was aggravating. Every word in the thesaurus that you could find for that, it was certainly that. But I just felt like Notre Dame can't be this bad. And that's not a knock on Cincinnati. They've got some talent, obviously nowhere near what Notre Dame has. And they were chippy, and they talked the talk, and they're one of the few instances that you see in sports where they actually walk the walk. But I have a hard time believing that Notre Dame doesn't come out showing at least some sense of resiliency, like you mentioned, John.
Yep. And I want to see that. And a part of me thinks we will, but it's just rough timing with the issues we have and the environment we're going into. That's just a rough dynamic, and I don't like it. And it is what it is, but you got to stop the snowball effect. That's the thing. Like one loss is one loss. You just can't let it snowball on you. So figure out a way, but I anticipate a lot of stress. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not super confident about this game this week. I mean, I feel optimistic. I really think Notre Dame has a legitimate chance to, win the game, but that's only if certain conditions are met. And I think if Pine starts, that chance to win the game is certainly on the table. But, if Cohen is our guy going into Blacksburg, I have a hard time believing that Notre Dame is going to win that game. I mean, unless the offensive line just plays a lights out game. But I mean, to this point, we're 5 games under we're already 5 games under our belt at this point. And that offensive line has been very, very unimpressive. And I understand we've got injuries, but, you've mentioned this before, and, that's just part of the sport. But everybody has injuries. You start getting 5 weeks into the season, you start getting later and later into the season, everybody's got injuries, everybody's got pains and hurts. You got to find a way to, battle through all that. You've got to find a way to dig deep and grind through it. And if you can, then that's great. But, if you can't, and that's one thing that's been a question of myself that I've had towards Notre Dame over the last several years is the toughness of this team. When the going gets tough, what is Notre Dame going to do? And, when it's been in big games, and I'm talking bigger games, not necessarily a game like what we're talking about this week, which is a big game considering the storyline surrounding the program. But I'm talking a big game, like a bowl game, or, like Clemson was one of the rare games last year where Notre Dame found a way to get over the Ian Book fumble in that third quarter, But granted, that wasn't a fully healthy Clemson team either. So, there's a lot of things to look at with this. I just hope that, like you say, we can stop the snowball effect and prevent this from becoming a very ugly second half of the season.
Yep. And we have the talent to do it. But like you said, certain conditions need to be met. So I need to see the leadership step up this week, stop the bleeding, get this win. Then you have a bye week. You can get healthier. You can let things calm down. If you do play with Pine most of this game and get through it somehow with the victory, no matter how it looks, then you have 2 weeks to work on getting healthier and building things around Cone, provide some stability to that offense. And I think that's the best case outcome going into this week and then the bye and then SC. So, my friend, thank you so much for calling. I'm going to be at the Southern Cal Notre Dame game. You're in South Bend. Look me up. Let's tailgate.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me on your program, and keep up the good work. I look forward to following your program, and hey, maybe in a few weeks we'll get together and we can, have a couple drinks or whatever.
Fantastic. Feel free to call anytime. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Next up, Albany, New York. You're on the Always Irish Show.
What's up, bud? How's it going, Johnny boy?
Aren't you in class?
No, for some reason class got canceled tonight. So I'm here, bud.
Does everybody know who you are? Do they all know that this is you? This is Stylite. This is the troll, everybody, that wants to be a moderator. And I knew it when I saw Albany, New York on there. Who should be the quarterback? Tell me.
Pine's the guy. Like, we've talked privately before the season started, and I put out a little tweet that you tweeted from one of my sources or whatever. Pine's been the guy. He was better than Cohen in camp, spring and summer camp. The issue was there were Buckner would transfer. Pine is the guy. And it wouldn't surprise me. And just to throw it out there, Buckner's number 2 choice wasn't publicly said when he committed because it was so early, but it was Stanford. So if he transfers, could be Stanford, could be could be like a team in California like USC. So, I mean, I kind of understand why they wanted Cohen to be the guy, but it makes absolutely no sense when you're trying to be a contender and you're out. So Pine's not the guy. Kelly's, I don't know, bro.
But like, to what extent can you operate and make decisions to win games now based on the fear of what is going to happen if you don't play a guy? Like, that's one consequence of the free transfer rule. If you got to keep these kids happy or they could just bounce on you. Like, what is that balance between? I just hate, it's uncomfortable to me that that's a factor that you have to worry about rather than just who gives us best chance to win this week and not embarrass ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to Kelly's age. Like, he signed a 4-year extension. Will he finish out that 4 years? Highly doubt it. But I mean, I think this ego thinking he has one last shot at Buckner is the guy, rather than a Pine being a Book 2.0. So if Buckner is the guy, you'd want to make sure he stays to give him that last chance to win a title. So I think it's really an ego thing on his end, and I think it's bad for the program. But obviously, I put out saying this is actually worse than 2016, to be honest, this QB decision entirely. That's up for debate, obviously, but I think this is the worst thing Kelly's ever done. Personally, I don't think he should be coach anymore. Like, I think it's an ego thing.
It can't be worse than BVG and then sticking with BVG, right? BVG's your guy.
Yeah, my Twitter fucking username is BVG Stan, bro. I stan the guy. I'm the number one fan. He's a legend.
You're the number one troll.
I'm in the QB over Kaiser.
You're the number one troll.
Right.
Listen, you got people questioning you about this transfer thing being real, and I don't know.
Nothing Buckner is transferring. It's the thought of if Pine started and he did well, would Buckner then transfer? That's what I'm getting at. And it was a fear because Stanford was his clear number 2 choice, and you don't want him going to Stanford, or maybe Stanford sucks, and you're like, okay, I want to go to USC. You don't. If you think Buckner's the guy, you, 1, don't want him transferring, 2, don't want him transferring to a school that you play year in, year out. That was the fear.
But
so you give Cohen the 1 year shot to make sure Buckner stays, develops a year, and can compete to make sure Pine doesn't stay ahead of him.
But like that, here's what I don't get though. Like if it ends up being Pine and he's the best option, like maybe next year, if it ends up being that, then you got your guy then. So then you can't care as much what Buckner does. Right?
But that's exactly the point. It's an ego thing from Kelly. He's trying to make sure he gets one last shot at a championship. So he's making the best decision for him rather than the program. Give each 1 year to develop as the backup so he can make a better decision a year from now, just for his sake, rather than for the program's sake this year and next year. It's Kelly thinking he can win a championship. I'm just being honest. I think that's what it is. I can't say 100% that's the reason, but everything people say behind the scenes is leading to believe that. So
Well, that's interesting. And I'll be honest, you're one of the few people that I talk to who genuinely thinks Kelly might not go the duration of this extension, and that he just might, not like he's going to drop and leave and go to USC, but just might be done coaching and go do something else.
I have so much. I have so much to say and so many thoughts, but I can't say things publicly like this. But I fully expect him to retire after next year, just because I think next year will be another similar year to this year. The O-line doesn't step up, just because there's going to be too much change in the skill positions, specifically wide receiver.
Well, you're going to have that. You're going to have that going on. And then the schedule gets, I mean, you're playing some big boys next year. You open up at the Horseshoe, Ohio State, and then you also have Clemson. So the schedule, that's why this year is so frustrating. This was a year with a little bit of a softer schedule where you could make some moves. And then you got teams like Ohio State and Clemson that also kind of took a step back, or God forbid lose a game, and it's a big deal for them. But I don't know. Who do you think is Marcus Freeman going to be the next coach?
Yes.
Are you just saying that because you know that's what I want to hear?
No, it's I can't say I'm fully confident, but I'm confident that Kelly will not finish out the 4 years, and because of that, he would stay another year or two as DC at Notre Dame rather than jumping ship to like USC. I personally believe that, just because of his place and where he wants to be specifically. But it's tough to tell when you don't exactly know what coaching changes could happen. There's been a rapid change the past 2 years in coaching that it's hard to predict any major job other than USC opening that he would take. So I don't know. It's tough, but I think he's the guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I don't know, man. What do you think happens Saturday night? Do we show up or not?
Also, I actually want to address one thing. I'm just seeing in the comments someone saying Kelly's not going to step down after next year. When I say step down, I don't fully mean his decision entirely. I just want to get that. Now
that changes things. That's juicy what you just said. That changes things a lot, because why would they give him but why would they give him an extension, a multi-year extension, and then halfway through it decide they don't want to? How many years is enough to figure out if you like Kelly or not? He's been here 12 years. They don't know.
the extension was announced at the beginning of last year, but it was started being worked on 6 months prior to that. They had no clue this year, and what I personally think is going to happen next year. Listen, Notre Dame's going to go 9-3, 10-2 this year, and my belief on how I see the offense and the team progressing and where guys are leaving after this year, I see another 8-4, 9-3 year following.
Ooh.
And I think the writing's on the wall, and Kelly's going to retire. Listen, when you're going to replace every single starting receiver, potentially starting running back, along with still not knowing who your quarterback is next year, with how poor the O-line is, I just don't see a good team. I'm just being honest. And I think it's going to be Kelly retiring on his own. That's the narrative, but in reality, I don't think it will be that.
There's something to be said for maybe everything just has a lifespan. And especially in college football, even 12 years is like 100 years in real life, 12 years coaching at the same place. So maybe there's just a natural lifespan there where it gets a little stale for both parties and we could use some life. And maybe it just comes down to that, real simple. I don't know. Do you want Colsey and Styles to get more snaps out there? Because I do.
Yeah, Styles 100%. Styles' progression, especially in camp, was really good. I fully expect him to he'll be a top 2 receiver in the lineup next year. I don't want to get too much into the lineup because there's a lot of changes going to happen, so I don't want to predict anything specific. But I'm interested to see what Colsey can do. His development's, I wouldn't say slower necessarily, but he's just a different type of receiver that feels similar to like a Boykin or a Claypool who took more time. And I think that more so has to do with how the offense was structured. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops if they change offense even more.
Interesting.
Yeah, Styles is the most important one to me, personally.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate you calling in, my friend. You're always good to stir up some stuff and drop some interesting things there that nobody else.
I didn't troll though.
Yeah, you didn't. So I'm a little uncomfortable with I'm a little uncomfortable with how normal you're being right now. Tell you the truth.
I had a bit, but I just didn't. Yeah, I wasn't feeling it.
You do realize that when I see Albany, New York on there, I knew that was you right away. So if you tried to troll me, I already knew that was you.
Yeah.
So you bet.
I hope so. I mean, I was a little afraid you wouldn't know because you're a little old to your memory, going a little bit. But I mean,
no, I remembered. All right, thank you for calling, my friend.
You dye your beard though.
I do not dye my beard. Damn it! No, I do not dye my beard. It is reddish with Notre Dame stress gray marks. Get it right. Get it right. All right, I'm hanging up on you. I'll text you later about our business venture, by the way. Bye.
Yeah. Okay, bye, bitch.
Of course, he had to drop that in at the end. Nice job there. Who else we got here? Let's see. You're on Always Irish in Vienna. Who we got?
Big John. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. What's up?
I'm so excited to talk to you. This is the guy who sends you the things on Twitter once in a while. This is David.
Oh, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. Excited to see you. I never get to see your podcast that much. I listen to them all the time because I work all the time.
Gotcha.
I got to send a shout out to my son. Send a shout out to my son. He's the one who got me to listen to you in 2019. I go, who in the hell is this guy? But you grew on me, and I love listening to you.
I appreciate that very much. I've had a bunch of people tell me and email me or message me and go, you know what, man, I didn't know about you at first, but then you grew on me. So I don't know whether that's good or bad, or people just get used to it, or what the deal is.
It's your passion, brother. I love your passion.
I appreciate that. It just comes out. This is therapy for me. I do not plan any rants or freakouts or anything. It's just whatever happens, happens. And it just happens that people sometimes are entertained by it. I love it. It's perfect for all of us.
Well, I'm glad to see you're still alive after last Saturday. I wasn't able to watch the games about 8:30 because I worked. And around 11 o'clock, I'm going, oh, my God, we lost these guys. Oh, so heartbreaking.
Maybe be glad you didn't have to see it. Look at it that way.
No, I did watch it. I watched it on DVR. I DVR the games, and I watched them at night.
But do you know what happens before, or do you like not get on social media? Okay, so you do it fresh without knowing.
Yeah, everything's on lockdown. I put my phone away I listen to podcasts all day, like yours and other people. When I get home, take the shower, and then go down there and watch the games, or watch our game. And that's my 3 hours of therapy, which I told my son that day before the game started. I go, the only way we lose to these clowns if we shoot ourselves in the foot like we did in South Florida. And, of course, the first drive right down the field, interception.
Yep.
Fumble the kickoff.
Yep. And
another interception.
But listen, here's my thing. I've had people say to me on Twitter, you need to relax. Like, what is your big deal? They're not allowed to lose one game and you're freaking out. But here's my response. It isn't the loss per se. It's how it looked. If we play a good, hard, clean game and just get beat by a better team, but we play a clean, good game, I'm not going to feel the same way as when we hand a team a game on a silver platter with dumb mistakes. That's different. Those are different. They hit me different. I feel differently about them. Totally different situations. Do you agree?
I totally agree. I don't like losing. It makes me sick to my stomach. But if we lose like Alabama, like we did to Clemson, like in the playoffs and stuff like that, they're better. But the games that stick in my craw are like the Miami game in 17, the Michigan game in 19. This game, we don't even do it. We do a no-show. We do a drive-by. We don't play to our game like we're supposed to play. And if we lose, we play good. And we're crapping our pants the whole time. It's just frustrating. Then we become the mockery of all the commentators. Again, that's Notre Dame. They're overrated. The whole thing. Just frustrating.
Yep. And it gets old, and it's really tough to combat it when you play a game like last week. And that ended up being, I think, the only ranked team on our schedule. And look what happened. So that's the other down thing about this is we don't really have the opportunity to make up that ground, beat a bunch of other ranked teams, and gain back some of that credibility. Now we're just kind of hanging on. And it's going to be interesting to see if we could do it. Who do you think should be Notre Dame's quarterback at Virginia Tech?
Oh, my God. I really don't know. I know it's not Tyler. Put him to the side. If they're going to play Tyler, let the poor guy throw the ball on first down one time. Do the, what is it called? The read option or whatever it is. Just run the pistol, have him a chance to either throw it or run it. Throw the ball one time. I feel bad for Tone because it's hard to judge the guy since he's getting crushed every time. But it does seem like the team rallies a little bit around Pine. And I'd like to see that. See, maybe he can start up and he can bring Cone off the bench if it gets bad. But I really like to change up the whole damn offensive line. I like to see where the hell Rocco's at. The guy was supposed to be the starter in the spring. All of a sudden, I can't even find him. He's like Waldo. Where the hell is he? You tell me he does as bad as Madden? Madden wouldn't be playing another down for me.
He's been really rough.
Yes, sir.
He's been very, very rough. And perhaps you learned there's a reason that he was playing in Marshall to begin with. Great kid. Well, like, I have nothing against the kid, but he's been getting beat out there a lot. And then when that happens, I start thinking the way you do, where if that's going to happen and it's going to be a liability in that position, at least give me development while it's happening.
Right. Last year, that's where I blamed Kelly on a lot. He shouldn't have rotating these offensive linemen in a series at a time, like left guard or right guard, because he knew we were going to lose 4 people. It's terrible management of the offensive line last year.
Yeah, it's rough. I really, really emotionally struggle processing your strength turning into your weakness overnight. Like that shift is very hard for me to accept. You know what I read today on Twitter somewhere? So far through 5 games, we have 48 plays on offense that are for negative yards. We had the same amount through the whole season last year. Something's wrong. It can't be this bad. These are not no-name guys. Most of them are 4-star guys. What's not connecting? What isn't connecting? I get it. Offensive lines take time to gel and all that. Just move somebody.
A lot of it you would think it'd be a pride thing. I know the guys are trying. I support them all. I know they think Quinn is not as good as Harry, which we agree. But these guys played well last year. Don't you think if the coach ain't teaching them what to do, they remember what you did last year? When you fire off the ball contact, you keep moving your damn feet to the whistle blows. They're catching. They're not attacking.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of like that first step is back and not forward type stuff. Here's the thing. A lot of people more in the know than me in Notre Dame media, actual beat writers, people on campus, people that see practice. A lot of those guys are starting to say if things don't change here, there could be a couple coaching changes after this year. That is the number one position that comes to mind in that regard. Hey, I don't know if Harry's still around or if he's interested, but he's not with the Bears anymore. Come on home, buddy.
Yeah, it sounds like he was helping out last year from what I've been hearing on some other podcasts.
I heard that too, and that's actually quite interesting. That's to learn that some of the Notre Dame linemen were also kind of talking to him, getting guidance from him, but he's not a coach, and they have an offensive line coach. That was an interesting tidbit. That struck me as being interesting.
And I also heard, I don't know if it's true, if you heard the same thing, that the offensive linemen, they liked Quinn, but they didn't want him to be the coach. They wanted the guy who wanted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be the offensive line coach. You should listen to the players once in a while. I
did not hear that.
Yes. I've heard that on a couple other shows.
That's interesting.
They liked him, but they didn't. So that's, and I love Brian Kelly. I think he's done a great job here. He has his faults, and his warts. He's blinded to friendship sometimes. And sometimes you got to be a little cutthroat, especially when he's near the end, if he wants to win a championship. He can't be loyal to his friends. And the receivers coach, to me, he's killing me too.
Yep. And if you had to tell me, pick the 2 position groups in your mind where you think a coaching change may be the most likely, those would be the 2 spots. It just would be, because I just don't think there's way more talent in those groups than is translating into games. And that's upsetting.
It's terrible upsetting because you look at our receivers, a lot of times they can't even get off when they're pressed. Or if they're running on the sideline, they get pushed out of the ground, so that's bad technique. And also, these young guys never get on the field. It's so great to see Styles catch the ball. You know what he did? He came back and got it and got a first down. Play them. Why can't these guys might make a play and go, oh, my God, what do we got here?
Yep.
If you want to get these big-time receivers, because they want to get on the field.
Yep. I totally agree with you. And it's just frustrating, man. It's really frustrating. And I just need us to calm the storm here, find a way to get through this game. If you had to pick, what do you think happens Saturday night? Do we come out mad and ready to prove a point, or do we lay down and just let the steamroll happen?
I think and I feel this game will dictate the rest of our season. And what scares me is it's supposed to be bad weather down here in Virginia.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I look at my phone right now. Last I saw, it's 80% rain on Saturday, 64 degrees. And we know how good we played in the rain in Michigan. And right now, we can't even run the ball. That's what scares me. If we're able to run, I feel a little bit more confident. But I believe somehow we'll pull it off, maybe 24-16. Hopefully, we might get a turnover and win the game, not give one away.
Yeah, but you bring up a terrific point about this being a turning point. In a lot of ways, last week was a turning point, maybe in terms of any big picture goals and dreams you have when you're undefeated and ranked in the top 10. But you're right, because there's a big difference from you lose a game and then you go on, you win the rest versus losing 2 in a row. That hasn't happened to Notre Dame in a long time. That's in a regular season situation. That's dangerous. That's a snowball. Then you go into the bye, and I don't know whether sitting on that an extra week is good or bad, running that into the bye. I could see that going both ways, but let's just win the damn game no matter what and move on. Get to the bye week, work some things out, get healthy.
Yes, absolutely. Then we beat USC, because I will see you when I'm up there in a couple weeks, and looking forward to it. I'm got two of my kids coming. I haven't been there. Last game I was there was against Vanderbilt, so this one will be better. We were there in 17 against USC. That was fantastic. That's what I'm hoping for again.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a really good one. But I will be there Friday night and Saturday night. So if you're around, let me know. We're going to be out and about on campus. Go out, have a few cold pops. Come find me.
I will. Well, hopefully we'll be up there around 5 o'clock. We'll leave here about 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday. So we'll be up there. So looking forward to you. And let's go, Brandon, and let's go Irish.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care.
Yes, sir. Thank you for everything you do.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, God bless. Bye.
Kevin, thank you for the super chat up in Canada. I don't know if you're one of these people calling me. It says Canada on here. This is probably going to charge me $900 a minute because you're from Canada, whoever it is. So we're going to try it. But I'm not kidding when I say the rates are outrageous. So if you're from Canada, I mean, I'm not trying to be like, anti-Canadian or anything, but I might have to keep you close your time here. Welland, Canada is up next. Always Irish Radio. Who dis?
Hey, John, how's it going?
Going well.
This is Liam. Sorry, I'm not trying to run up your bill.
I don't know,
Big Irish fan.
Liam. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure the rates are outrageous because you're in Canada. I'm not trying to be biased, but I'm pretty sure it really is a high rate. But thank you for calling.
I'm really sorry. Yeah, no problem. Listen, I really love the show. I worked a lot in the summer, so long drives, and I love throwing it on Spotify and driving. I'm a diehard Irish fan like you, and I'm just super glad I got to chat with you. There's one thing I really want to ask you. This week we had a lot of big recruits down, Carnell Tate, Sonny Styles, guys like that we're in tight races for with schools like Ohio State. Do you think that having them there at the game and us laying an egg plays a big role, or do you think like guys that want to go to Notre Dame go to Notre Dame, right? They're Irish guys through and through. So I was wondering what your opinion was on that.
That is a wonderful, wonderful question. And I have been thinking about it. Here's what I think. Obviously, it wasn't a good look, and it didn't help your cause at all to have that go the way it did, have their fan presence the way they were. They were vocal, they were loud, they were present. There was a lot of them. The way it didn't go well, all of that didn't help your cause with all that talent on campus. But with most of these guys, I think it's very much what you said. If these guys are interested in Notre Dame, I just think one bad performance at home isn't going to change that. There's so much more involved behind the scenes with the overall environment, benefits in Notre Dame, the 4 for 40, the education, all that stuff. A lot of these kids that are interested in Notre Dame come from really good families that value education and all that. They're on a straight and narrow path at home. And I just don't think one performance like this would change their mind. But at the same time, it wouldn't hurt if you had won this game and it was awesome and the stadium was loud and everybody was going crazy. That could only help you. But I would guess with most of these kids, if they're going to Notre Dame, they're going for the full package. And I don't think it'll affect it. But I still hate the way that felt, knowing all those kids were there. What do you think?
For sure. I'm not too worried about losing the kids that we have committed, because it's not very often Notre Dame loses commits, and if they do, it's for a host of other reasons besides, you know, an on-field visit. But it just worries me that these guys are super talented and they're must-gets, and this was just such an embarrassment on a national stage on multiple levels, seeing all that red in the stadium, the way we played, especially on offense, considering Carnell Tate's one of the most dynamic receivers at IMG right now. I bet you he's looking at what Olave and Wilson have been able to do with, you know, not saying Ohio State is terrible right now, but they're having a down year, but they're still being productive on offense, right? And to look at what, you know, considering Sonny Styles and Carnell Tate are both Ohio State, I wouldn't say lean, but they're considering it for sure. It's definitely like a cause for concern, especially the way we played on offense.
I agree with you. Listen, I don't like the dynamic at all. It was a bad look. I was uncomfortable with it, and I wanted to be madder about it, because that's the kind of thing a guy like me usually gets really mad at. But I just really think there's so much more involved with any student athlete looking to go to Notre Dame than just on the field or just the idea of getting in there and making it to the NFL. It's such a different mentality for the guys considering Notre Dame and their families that I'm not that worried about it. Could there be maybe a guy who really got turned off by the vibe? Maybe. So it definitely wasn't a good look, but I think this is one of those times where the 4 for 40 and the big picture of everything Notre Dame has to offer makes up for some of that as a safety net. But I hated the dynamic. I hated the feel of it. And seeing it, I hated it. But I think they'll be okay. But you had a lot of talent in South Bend. It would have been a great idea to ball out for them.
No kidding. No kidding. That really upsets me. Oh, I wanted to share with you. So I'm from Canada, and it might just be cliche for any person outside the U.S. to, you know, gravitate. You know, I'm a college football fan, but it would be kind of cliche for people to assume that I would gravitate towards a really popular team like Notre Dame, an international brand. But so how my family became Notre Dame fans, my dad went to Notre Dame High School. I'm not sure if I can claim 100% validity on this fact, but he went to Notre Dame High School. There's a Notre Dame High School in Welland, where I'm from, and my dad and my uncle both went there. They're both diehard Notre Dame fans like myself, but they almost disbanded the football program in the 80s, I'm pretty sure, due to lack of funding. And the University of Notre Dame actually donated a lot of their old equipment, including helmets and pads and whatnot, to Notre Dame High School in Welland. So I thought that was cool. I'm not sure if you knew anything like that.
No, that's fantastic.
Was born.
That's fantastic. I love that. No,
yeah, it's
listen,
super interesting.
Notre Dame has a lot of fans in Canada, way more than I ever realized till I started doing this show and realizing how many people were from there. So it's great to see. What's your prediction for Saturday night? How do you think this is going to go?
You know, there's something that you mentioned in the Alabama I think it was the Alabama pre-playoff video that you put out, and you like to say emotional hedging and cautious optimism. So that's kind of, I want to say I'm excited and I want to say we can win, but I have cautious optimism. I think as long as we can figure something out, I heard on your last caller you mentioned rain. That doesn't bode well for us. I'd like to see us try to move the ball to the sidelines a bit more in the run game. I know that doesn't bode well for the tackles, but it's a little bit predictable. And if we can't pass, I don't like the way things are looking. But cautious optimism for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. There's just not much you can rely on. And that is what makes me very, very nervous. Like, I think I can rely on the defense to keep us in all of our games. But offensively, I trust nothing. I can't rely on it. So I'm on edge no matter who we play at all times. And it's just a little bit uncomfortable. But Liam, thank you for calling me from Canada. Call again, my friend.
Thanks for having me, John.
Take care.
You too.
Now we got New Haven, Connecticut, 203. You're on the air. Who dis?
Hey, John. Love the show. It's Mike. What's going on?
What's up, Mike? How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So what are your thoughts about where Notre Dame's at right now?
I mean, honestly, I'm just kind of disgusted about this past weekend. And I think part of the problem is it seems to be a systemic problem is that Kelly fails to get his players to step up to these big game situations. And he says it time and time again. He says, oh, every game's the same. Every game is not the same. And you have to prepare differently for different opponents. But it seems like he fails to do that time and time again.
The business trip mentality thing drives me up the freaking wall. College football is all about emotions and how you channel them. I can't have you acting like you're an accountant in a cubicle when the other team has their head on fire and they're slamming their heads against the locker, ready to run through a wall. And then you say, well, we're just going to work. It's just a business trip. I don't like that. I've never liked it. Now, I'm not saying go crazy to where you're undisciplined with that energy, but there's a way to channel it. And I've always felt Kelly has those guys tight before a lot of big games. And I don't think he is the most natural, intuitive motivator the way somebody like Lou Holtz was. I just don't think he is. I don't think it comes natural for him.
Yeah, and even you look at a Nick Saban or something like that. While he doesn't come off as, necessarily flashy, he has a way of getting his players to show up in the biggest games, which is something we consistently cannot do.
And it's always bothered me. You have this huge game and we seemingly come out flat or unenergetic, and I just don't understand how that's possible. I hate it.
As soon as that first drive, I saw that cone pick, I knew it. I said, here we go. This is one of these games. And again, like the Florida State game, we got off to a great start. The offense looked great. We were moving the ball. And then all of a sudden, it's like, we can't even get a first down. What the heck is going on here?
The offense is beyond frustrating. And I get why people get mad at me when I bring up like the 12-year dynamic, and people don't like that. But like, what Notre Dame Brian Kelly offense has been awesome. Like, I can't help.
Never.
But exactly.
Never been awesome.
And so I can't help. Like, I can't act like this is the only sample I have. When I have 12 years, I'm looking at it going, when does this kick in? If it isn't a dozen years, why should I think it's 13, 14, or 15 years? And I'm just losing my patience. Like, we have these ups and
if it wasn't for our ability to run the ball the last 2 years, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Ian Book didn't really make a lot of great passes. He was a great quarterback, obviously won an unbelievable amount of games, and I have nothing but respect for him. But we were never a deep threat pass, team at any point in the last 3 or 4 years. And that's why we got smoked in these big games, because you look at these top programs, all these guys can throw deep balls and they can put up points really quickly. We have not been able to do that at all, pretty much ever.
It's just very frustrating because I remember the most, if you think back to when all this Brian Kelly stuff first started, the big thing with him was his offenses and the way that he can mold quarterbacks and develop guys and win. And I'm waiting for that to kick in. Like 1 year where I'm like, man, this offense is really balanced. They can run it. They can throw it. They have athletes. They can do it all. I love the quarterback. It's an elite level guy. For whatever reason, we just never get there. And then here's the other thing that gets me with this Kelly era. Even in our really high-end years, there's always a part of the team that's holding you back. Like the defense is really good, but the offense isn't. And then like in 15, the offense was pretty good and the defense wasn't. He can never get everything when it's up all at the same time. It's always switching up and down, up and exactly. And That.
And the other thing that was just unbelievably annoying is that, like, we're clearly a better team than Cincinnati. Like, on paper and just, I mean, we played as bad of a game as we could play, and we still technically were in the game. I mean, it was ridiculous.
We gave them 17 points off 4 first downs, and their longest play in any of that was like 26 yards, I think. But they only had to get 4 first downs to get up 17-0 on us. It's so frustrating.
And
like,
here's like Cincinnati fans like thinking they, you know, and hey, whatever, they won the game. I give them credit,
there's
but
nothing
I mean,
you can. There's
honest,
nothing
you
we
are
could
not
say.
A playoff team.
There's nothing we
I
can
know,
say though. You can't say. You can't say anything.
The thought that they're a playoff team is a joke.
Well, this is going to get really interesting because I really do feel if any non-Power 5 team had a chance, this is about as good as it's going to be. And their schedule,
I agree.
They will very likely run the table. And I think if you're a Cincinnati person, you're already liking that the regulars that make the playoff every year, Oregon, I mean, not that they do every year, but Oregon got that loss. The Pac-12's probably out of the playoff. Ohio State and Clemson have their issues this year. This would have been a perfect year for Notre Dame to swoop in and get a spot. But it would have been perfect.
And
now that's Cincinnati spot.
Fans are on Twitter talking about how good Notre Dame is to try to bump up their resume. When I'm saying, I'm like, well, I mean,
right? Yeah,
I don't know.
It comes full circle. It goes back, right? But leading up to Cincinnati, it was like, oh, you know, Notre Dame sucks. Look at how bad their offense is. Right after we beat them, it's like, that's a quality win. Boost up that strength of schedule.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes when you're Notre Dame. Man, but it's so watching Ritter run with that flag and doing the be quiet. I was sweating. I was so mad that I was just sweating. I couldn't handle it.
Classic. This is a classic Brian Kelly big game. And by the way, of all the big games he's lost, this may be the most embarrassing.
He's good for one a year, no matter what. Now, some of them are to really great teams. I'm not saying that they're all to like teams that are not elite, but Jack Sacco and I have talked about this, and he always says, John, Kelly's good for one. It's just a matter of when's it going to hit. There's always one in a year, at least one.
Yes.
Oh, it's frustrating. So what do you think?
The other question, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, ask.
The other point I wanted to make was, I think clearly from what I've seen, I think Payne is as good as Cohen, or if not better. He's super poised in the pocket. He makes the throws that Cohen makes easily, and he can run. I don't even see why it's a question at this point. And he's a freshman, I believe, and so he has his whole career ahead of him, whereas Cohen's going to be gone next year?
Yeah, Cohen's going to be gone. He's a super senior. He's out. Here's what you said that I like the most. For a young guy, he does seem very poised back there. He does not look like he's losing his mind, wigging out, freaking out in a way where even Ian Book did as an upperclassman sometimes back there. Pine has a calm to him that will benefit him greatly no matter what else happens in his career. And I think now that calmness might be the best thing you need to just kind of get the chaos done here and find some stability. So, but I agree with you. You know what else? Some of the touch passes, I think he'll laser them in when it needed a little more touch. But overall, I thought he was throwing some lasers. He throws some like a tight spinning ball that just kind of zoop, and I kind of like it. So I'm ready to see more. Why not? Why not?
He's got an arm.
So what I'd really like to see is find a way to win this game, get into the bye, give yourself 2 weeks to build more of an offense out around him and what he does, working around the offensive line to minimize their negative impact. But I'm encouraged by that. If he starts, I'm very interested to see. I don't think he's going to panic. He may make mistakes, but it's not going to be panic mistakes, if that makes sense.
real quick point. What do you think about Tommy Reese? He's been here for, 3 years, I believe? And, I don't know, the offense was great before he got here, but I don't know. I have really mixed feelings. Is it a relationship piece with Kelly, or is it time to move on to someone else? I mean, I feel like there's a lot of good guys out there we could be picking up at this point.
I go back and forth on this. And sometimes I don't know if let me ask you this. Does this make sense? Sometimes I ask myself if I have a predetermined bias against Reese because I'm thinking this is a legacy hire, Kelly and him and this and that. But I don't know if that's fair. Sometimes he draws up game plans I really like. And then other times he does things that make no sense and they don't work and he keeps doing them. I also, exactly. And then this dynamic this year, the problem is, I don't know how much I could judge him and his play calls because of the offensive line. Can't run any play calls. So I don't know how fair it is when this is what you're dealing with the offensive line. I don't know how fair it is to judge anybody. The quarterbacks, look at these running backs. Poor Kyron Williams' numbers are crap because he has nowhere to run. He's an all-American type guy running into a brick wall. And I feel horrible for him. The NFL knows he's talented. He's still going to be able to do that. I just feel bad. Can't gain any yards, man.
What did you think of when they put Buckner in that drive where Payne was just moving the ball and completely stalled the drive? I
had 2 heart attacks and 4 aneurysms. It made no sense. You killed your own momentum. You killed your own momentum. This guy goes right down the field. You finally have some rhythm. You're going, and then you put Buckner in. And here's the other thing. Everybody in the world knew that was going to be a boring run play for nothing because that's all they let him do. It was a waste, a total waste.
I think I've ever seen.
Yep. And everybody knew it, and everybody knew it was going for nothing, including Cincinnati. Like, that is the type of decision where I look at Reese and go, I have no idea. I have no idea what you're thinking. It just logically makes no sense. Game flow, it made no sense. I just don't get it. So what do you think happens this week?
I just hope, I hope they win. I feel like we got to make up for some ground that we lost last week. I hope it's a blowout, honestly. I hope they go out there and kick the shit out of them. Sorry for swearing, but I really hope that's what happens. I don't think that I'll be happy with anything less based on what happened last weekend. And I hope Payne starts and he has an unbelievable game.
It's going to be interesting. I think this is a stern test of your resiliency and maturity as a program. How do you bounce back? I'm looking at how they start this game. Are they ready to go mad, ready to prove a point? Or are they ready to roll over and call dead for the year? So I am super interested to see it. Thank you so much for calling, my friend. Call again next time.
Absolutely, John. Good talking to you.
Take care. Good night.
Bye.
Chicago. Is this Henry? Hello. Hello. Henry, did you fall asleep on the phone?
JKZND4. What's up, brother?
What's up? How are you? I recognize your name from Twitter. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, this is Henry. How's everything going?
Going very well. What's going on in your world?
Oh, man, I'm enjoying the show, man. I have been following you. You were like an outlet to me even pre your audio. Followed you on Twitter in the early days. I was like, this guy's more crazy than I am. The emotional roller coaster of the Irish. It made me feel better about myself.
Well,
and now look where you've come.
I appreciate that. You know what? I can't believe 2016 is when I started. It doesn't feel that long, but in the middle of that nightmare, I was losing my mind, and I honestly needed a healthy outlet for that nightmare. And somebody on Twitter was like, why don't you just start your own podcast? You could yell all you want, and that's how it started. But I appreciate you being there from the beginning. It has kind of grown, which is kind of the point.
Yeah, it's good, my man. It's really good. So just diving into this immediately, you just reiterated it. Like I do feel bad for Cone. He seems like a great kid. I think the kids really respect him, but he's just not fit for, not too many quarterbacks are with this O-line, but he can't be the guy standing back there just getting blown up. He just can't be. And then the other guy, Kyron, my God, Kyron reminds me of Emmitt Smith. The guy's elusive. He doesn't take big hits. He's physical when he needs to be. And here he is just not even showing up because he's behind these guys. It's just, so brutal. I mean, Williams is my guy, and you can't even see that he's as good as he can be.
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. There's so much raw talent in certain areas of this ball club, but the areas that are deficient hold them back so much that it all averages out to be in the muck.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone back and forth with you on this so much it's via Twitter. It's like Kelly, and now it's resonating at the O-line because these guys that are playing now for us are 4-star guys. So, and the quarterbacks that we've gotten are 4-star guys, minus, Book, who's a 3-star guy. But, I mean, Kelly, I've always said, is either a horrendous evaluator or he's a horrendous developer of talent at the quarterback position because we've never had that guy. Now I feel like it's happening at the offensive line. Like we're rolling out 3rd-string tackle, 4th-string tackle, 4-star, can't block. It's like, what is going on? We either recruiting the wrong dudes or they can't develop them. And both of them is terrible.
Right. Like there's a disconnect somewhere, and that's where I rack my brain trying to figure out where it is. Like, where's that mesh point between the raw talent and the development that's lacking? Like, I don't know. Like, I understand, especially with the offensive line, people always say cohesion. It takes them a long time to develop together as a unit. I get all that. But if you're a 4-star talent, just move the guy in front of you half the time at least.
Yeah, even with Buckner, I mean, you watch, the kid from Clemson come up. He's struggling a little bit this year, but he came up to South Bend last year and played a great game. He had a great year as a freshman when he had to step up and play for Clemson last year. But like Buckner, the fact that you can't, he hasn't even shown any ability to throw. And this kid is a talented kid, or at least he was supposed to be a talented kid. So we're only developing him as a runner, or can he not do it? So again, are you bad at developing the talent, or was it a total miss recruiting-wise?
But here's what I don't get. Here's what I don't get about Buckner. Half the people I talk to that are in the know or have access and all that, half of them say the kid's going to be amazing and the guy that I've been begging for the entire Kelly tenure. And the other half are saying he can't complete a pass in practice. So I don't know what to expect, but I know when they put him in, he's in there to run the ball. So I don't think they trust him to throw at all. And if you're only putting him in there to run, and everybody knows that, that's not going to work either. So then he has no confidence even when he's in there. This is all a big mess.
But if the kid could throw and he's good, why not at least do some kind of play action with him and use his arm? And then it's a total different package where, he's a run threat certainly, but they haven't even attempted to have him go through any type of throwing progression.
Yeah, it's been a really frustrating mix and match approach. And it honestly feels to me like they're grasping at straws, throwing things on the wall and hoping one of these blends of quarterback, play call, and blocking click enough that it'll present itself to them rather than them have to figure it out. That's my interpretation of what they're doing right now.
Yeah. I mean, Pine's got to be the guy. I think you said it with the other caller. Looks like he has some poise. He has the ability to save some time in the pocket. and just roll with them, man. If you want to continue to mix in Buckner, potentially do it at opportune times, but not just to run, just for future development. But Pine's got to be the guy, man. He's got to be the guy.
I think so too. Right now, it's very clear to me that is your best option for both running and passing, and like survival mode, dude. Like just escapability to be able to get out of there, like with the O-line situation. So what do you think happens Saturday? I'm scared to ask. I could see this being really ugly.
I was making a little bit of joke in the chat section. I was saying 8-4, book it. You know, I actually think so. Here's the saving grace: is our defense plays hard. They're going to keep us competitive in all these games. I actually like our chances tonight. I don't love the fact, I didn't know this until your last caller, I don't love the fact that it's raining, but I do think we figure out a way to win on Saturday. From there, I have no idea. I think we find a way to win on Saturday.
Yeah, I just expect, even if we do find a way, I think it'll be a stressful way, and I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. I just think it's going to be that kind of a year with our offense. I just think that's what you're going to get. Buckle
up. Stress is going to happen versus Navy. Stress is going to happen versus Stanford, Virginia, North Carolina.
Hey, Stanford just took out Oregon.
That's not going to be stressful.
Oh, jeez. Oh, all right.
To buckle up. It's going to be stressful.
Yeah, I can count on that with Notre Dame. But Henry, thank you for calling. And I mean, you're in Chicago and I'm in that area, so let's hang out sometime.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. Keep it up, my man.
Take care. Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
(219) Gary, Indiana, you're up. Who dis?
Hey, John, this is Adam.
What's
in Crown Point, Indiana?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just going by the screener here, and that 219, that's what it shows up as, a Gary cell tower.
Yeah, it probably just happened that way. My name's Adam Dowling. I'm messaging you a lot on Twitter.
Yeah. How are you, man?
Good. It's funny. I love this. I love your show, and the season ticket holder. And it's funny because we were coming home from the game last week, angry, me and my wife, and she said, it'd be great if that Always Irish guy had a call-in show.
That's kind of the idea. And like I used to being in growing up, like in the Chicago area and living in Chicago in my 20s, they had Chet Kopic, who did the old Chet Kopic sports writer, sports talk guy. He was doing the post-game shows on like the ESPN local Chicago radio call-in. And it was 99% commercials, a couple quotes from the coach, and then whatever. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to buy a line and create my own pre and post game shows. I'll just do it myself and be the spot for that. So it took me longer to get the technology all figured out than anything else.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a good show, man. It finally, it really, gets the Irish passion out there, and it's been great.
Well, I really appreciate that. What do you think's going to happen Saturday? Do you think we come out ready to prove a point, or do we lay down?
It's hard to tell, John, because all year I've been saying the same thing. Our offensive line is so bad. It's kind of like building a house on a bad foundation. But for some reason, I think we're going to be ready to play. And I think we're going to win the game.
We need this win. I mean, you have to get things back. You have to stop the drowning, get your head above water, go into this bye week on a positive note with things to work on, get healthy. You just have to. You just have to. So find a way, however you need to do it. Who do you want to be the quarterback?
I think it has to be Pine, just because when he's in there, just his movement in the pocket helps this line. Just a little bit of movement helps him. And so for some reason, he doesn't get hit nearly as much. But on the other end, I know they only run the ball with Buckner, but when you listen to the recruiting services, you know, the Tom Lugavilles, the Trent Dilfers, they say this guy is an amazing passer, and Irish fans are going to love him forever. I just don't think they're letting him do it. But for what we've seen, it's got to be Pine.
Like, I just think it's not really a luxury. Let's sit back and pick. I feel like it's a necessity. You need his escapability. And like you said, it isn't always just like a set run play, but just moving a little bit just to avoid contact. Like, I can't describe it, but when he's in there, it just feels like we have some flow. Not a lot, but some. And we have none most of the other time. So go with the flow.
A little bit of movement.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. His little bit of movement. The perfect example was that pass Austin dropped in the middle. All he did was he dropped that pass. Would have been a huge gain. I think it was the fourth quarter. It might have been the third. But his little bit of movement created that chance for that huge play.
Yeah. And I just think with the limitations on this offense, that's what we need to get by. I'm not talking about some luxury situation when we're just picking which great quarterback's attributes we want the most. I just think you need it to kind of cover up some of that offensive line situation. That's just what I think.
Exactly.
That's
You're
just
100% right.
I don't think it's a luxury at this point. You needed to not get your quarterback beheaded and maybe have a chance to move the ball with some rhythm. That's all. It's a bad spot to be. I don't like it at all, but in it, I think this is the most realistic solution, short term.
Yes, you're 100% right. Cohen has done nothing wrong. That's what I know. Me and my dad talk about this all the time. He's done nothing wrong. It's just he can't play behind this offensive line.
Yeah, it does not suit his game at all. They're polar opposites. Not his fault, just a bad confluence of events. And here we are. Let me ask you this. Are you going to go to the USC game? You going to be around?
Yes, 100%. We've been season ticket holders for years, and we go to every single game. Me and my wife, we go to every game, so we will definitely be there. We're always in the library lot, so we're on the north end.
Beautiful. I will be in town all weekend. I'll put something on Twitter or direct message you. Let's meet up for a drink. I'll be out Friday night and then Saturday night after the game as well.
100%, John.
Beautiful. Thank you for giving me a call. Call anytime.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night. It is now time to take a call from a Notre Dame engineering grad, Pulitzer Prize nominated author, and Notre Dame football historian, Jack Sacco.
John, how you doing?
How are you, my friend? Thank you for calling.
I'm doing very well. I must say, I'm calling from the heart of Nick Saban territory here in Alabama. And I just wanted to tell you that I have absolutely nothing constructive to say or to add to the show. But I wanted to congratulate you on it. And it's so great to have you speaking for all of us. And I tell you what, I don't know what I would do without this show. It is therapeutic for me, as it is for you. I could use a few more water bottles being thrown. I enjoyed that. But congratulations on all you're doing, and we gotta figure out how to right this ship.
Yeah, Jack, thank you for the kind words. You're another guy that I met in the very beginning of all this journey, and you've been there forever and through the growth and everything. And Jack's another guy I never would have met if it wasn't for this show. We met up in South Bend. We went to the game together. Like, it's fantastic. God. So I've met so many people.
An adventure.
It was an adventure, all right.
With Frank Leahy's crowd. We went back. It's almost like we went back in time for that weekend.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. You know, I think at one point you said to me, John, sit in this chair and look out this window and just know that, frankly, he used to do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so Jack.
But that's, that's what we need to get back to. Yes.
Jack, what do you think? If you had to put money on it Saturday night, do we come out ready to play or do we look overwhelmed? What happens?
I always say never underestimate the ability of a Brian Kelly coach team to come out unprepared and uninspired. So I've seen it over and over again. I've seen it too many times. It just seems to be the constant way it happens, especially I say, people use the phrase big games, and I'll say big games. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big, like a national championship game. Although I was at the national champion, I've been to several championship games because oh my God, you hear that? Oh no, this massive thunder and lightning here in Alabama. I was also at the South Florida game, which wasn't a big game, but actually God tried to kill the whole team and all the fans twice during that game. But
it was a sign. Shut it all down.
It was a sign. He said, I'm not a big, that was the game where people were upset with Kelly for turning purple. And I tell him, Kelly was mad, but God tried to kill everybody in the stadium twice. He knew what was coming and he couldn't even take it. But in any event, the national championship games are one thing, but you and I talk about it sometimes. The fact that, I'm about as big. I mean, I appreciate what Brian Kelly has done, especially from where the program was before he got there. I think he's done a great job in doing what he's capable of doing. I don't know the man. I've never met him. I do have an autographed football from him. I have it. What am I going to do? But to me, and I'm just going to say this. People may disagree with me. Everybody's allowed to, but he's like I look at Notre Dame like Notre Dame's an incredible race car. It's a formula, whatever formula, the high end race car. And I should know what race cars, what the high ends are. I don't, but I should because my brother's a NASCAR official. However, Notre Dame's the high end, and it seems to me that Brian Kelly's like gear 3. Maybe gear 4. First gear will get you out of the parking place. Second and third gear will get you going. There's not a whole lot of good for you up on the freeway with the big boys. And it seems like whenever we get into that situation, the car melts down. And, that we don't have the 5th or 6th gear or wherever other gears that we need when we get there. Now, whose fault is that? I don't know. But I do know that Brian Kelly's the head coach and he gets several $1 million a year to do whatever it is he's supposed to be doing. So I put the blame on him. And as you know, though, I'm a little biased because I was there when Ara Parseghian was there, Dan Devine, and of course through the Lou Holtz years. So I've seen a lot of championships, and I'll just say this. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody. I'm about as big of a Brian Kelly fan as I am a fan of that pipe that's hanging over the Play Like a Champion sign. So
I know, man.
There you go. I don't know if I answered your question. I don't even remember what the question was.
I know. I love how much you hate that pipe. I love it. I love it.
They haven't won a championship since they put that pipe. They remodeled the stadium in 1997. The pipe was not there. Okay. And so the pipe was not there. And they remodeled it. I don't know how much money they paid to remodel it, but for some reason they decided to put a pipe. I don't know if it's coming from a toilet. I don't know what it's coming from, but it's a pipe hanging in front of the sign, and we've yet to win squat since the pipe went up. So I don't know. I don't know that I'm superstitious. I'll just say, oh yes, I guess I am.
Jack, when Jack and I went to a game a couple of years ago, it was the Virginia game. And Friday night we went to an event in the stadium, and so we got to walk around, do whatever. Yeah. And we're in the locker room, and they have security guys there, and we're walking around, and Jack's mad about that pipe where you come down the steps and it's there, and Jack's telling the security guard, "How do we get this pipe out of here? How'd you guys let that go up?" He's, I'm going to come in here after hours and cut it out myself.
And then the security guy started wondering about it too. He said,
good question. Why is that pipe there?
Hey,
I don't know, but it
can,
needs to go.
can I ask you a serious question I think the
Please.
listeners would like
Please.
to know the answer to?
Yeah, okay.
How do you exist in Alabama territory as a diehard Notre Dame guy? Is that a rough way to live, or did they just laugh
It's
you
not
off?
easy.
Did they just laugh you off? Like what's the dynamic? Because you're right there.
No. Yeah, it's not easy. I tell you what, I grew up here in Alabama. I spent many, many years in Los Angeles, but I grew up here in Alabama, went to high school here, and went off to college from here to go to college. And it's not easy from the point of view of the Alabama people. And I have a lot of friends who are Alabama, graduates of Alabama and Auburn and this type of thing. I'm one of the few that escaped the gravitational pull of Alabama and actually set foot outside of the state for any known reason, let alone to go to school. But the Alabama people will come up to me and say, if I'm wearing a Notre Dame shirt or something, they've done this since I was a student at Notre Dame. They'll say, I hate Notre Dame. And I'll say, thank you. Well, thanks for telling me that. I actually went to school there, and they'll say, yeah, I hate it. So that's their attitude. Now, this is another pet peeve of mine, but they just invented like 28 national championships for themselves.
I know that always gets you. How whenever they do that calculation, I always see you breaking it down, the numbers, going, where'd this half dozen come from?
Yeah. Alabama has, I think, 9 legitimate championships. 9. I don't care what ESPN says or BSPN or whatever they are, or anybody else says. I've counted them every which way you could count championships, and they have 9. I think it's 9 legitimate consensus national championships. And but we played them in '73 and beat them. And then the day after that game, they were, Alabama people were moping around. And then, 10 years later, whatever, they claimed that they were the national champions. They certainly didn't claim that after that game. But, being here in Alabama, it's different. The whole view of football. People don't seem to remember that before Nick Saban went to Alabama, Alabama was not good. Alabama was going from coach to coach. They were losing 3 or 4 or more games a year. And then they got Nick Saban, and so they're on top right now. And believe me, they are great. But Notre Dame needs to be great. I don't like these excuses of, we are supposed to win. We're supposed to lose a game or two. We're not supposed to lose a game. We're supposed to be good enough to win. We're supposed to think and be like champions. And that's one of the things I love about your show and your thought processes and everything. There's no excuse for failure. There's no reason to not be a champion. If you're going to do something, do it correctly, do it right, and give it everything you have. Anyway, don't get me started. I guess I've already started, but.
Jack, you and I. Different generations, but we share the same football mind in a lot of ways. And it scares me sometimes when we talk and I'll run something by you or you'll text me and go, am I on the same page with you here? But I know it's hard to win at it's hard to win at Notre Dame. I know it, but you get over the hump.
Well, we do. I mean, honestly, that's why I look at the national champions and I talk about that, because we have more consensus national championships than anybody does, certainly than Alabama does. And then we have another 10 co-national championships, which people in Notre Dame act like, oh, that's co-national champions, not a big thing. But we are listed as the co-national champions for those years. I mean, Newt Rodney, Frank Leahy, Ara Parseghian, Lou Holtz all had co-national championships. Now, even if you don't count those, so I look at it and say, you know what, we've had more winning coaches. We've had the 2 highest winning percentage coaches. And by the way, that's how you measure the winningest coach, by the winning percentage, not the number of games that he's won over a period of 48 years or however long Brian Kelly's been there.
Well, because if you're going to give him credit for most wins, you also got to mention he has the most losses too.
At the most long.
Yeah,
I mean,
that works
I
both
met,
ways.
I had met Eddie Robinson one day and spent the day with him over at Grambling. And I mentioned to him, I said, "You're the winningest coach in college football." And what he did is he looked at me and he just laughed and he said, "That's because I've been here the longest."
Yeah, it all times out. Jack, I want to ask you something genuine from the bottom of my heart, and I know everybody listening will appreciate this because it's super. It's Jack. It's super unique to you. Explain to the people what it feels like to be a Notre Dame student and have your team win the championship. What does that feel like?
There is no better feeling than that in football, in the football world. There's no better feeling than that. Winning a big game, let's say over the past few years, what would you say has been our biggest win? Clemson last year when they were number one?
I think Clemson has to be it. And before that, I would say Oklahoma 2012 going to their place almost.
Going to their place. Okay. So, yeah. So Clemson, I think because they were number one and they were at Notre Dame and all that. So, because when I was a senior at Notre Dame, we had the famous green jersey game where Southern Cal came in and we beat them silly and then went on to win the national championship. It's, let's say the emotion or whatever you felt at the end of the Clemson game and multiply that by about 1,000. And you also know that you don't even have to play the next week. You are the national champions. You are on top. And then that's the way it's just going to be for at least the next year, or the next few months. And so to me, there's no feeling like that. Of course, I think I said in a tweet earlier this week, I was a senior in high school when we won, when Notre Dame won the championship over Alabama in '73. And then I was a senior at Notre Dame when we won the championship. We actually beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl, just demolished them. And they were this high-flying team, high-flying offense, just really beat them down. And won the national championship in '77. My senior year, I graduated in '78. And by the way, I was at the Rudy game. I was in Los Angeles. I told people I was at the Rudy game. They said, "Do you mean you were there when they filmed it?" I said, "No, I was there when it happened." And so I've seen some big Notre Dame games over those times. And of course, you were, I think, 4, right, when Lou Holtz won it in '88.
Yeah, I don't quite remember the vibe.
Yeah, you don't remember it 4, but we need to. This is unacceptable. I remember in '88 thinking, and my brother and I talking about, oh my God, 11 years of misery are finally over because we'd won in '77 and now again in '88. That just seemed like too long. And now we've gone 132 years or something, and this is unacceptable. I know that some Notre Dame people don't agree with this. They think maybe, I don't know what they think. Maybe we should lose. Maybe it's okay to lose. I don't think it's okay to lose. I know that the law of averages, you're going to lose, and you're going to have, the team's not going to perform well that day. But and sometimes another team beats you. Sometimes another team is better. But it's never okay, and it never should be okay. And I have to take it back to the coaching staff always, every time. It's with our players, I think we have great players, great young men. I've been watching some of their podcasts, and I try to tune into the things that they say. We have some of the greatest players and some of the brightest young men playing for the University of Notre Dame, and they're some of the greatest athletes in the country. They should be winning, and they should, the coaches have to demand, I've talked about this, the coaches have to demand excellence, like Frank Leahy did. If they don't demand excellence, the players are not going to be able to give it to them. And the players are going to do things like allow rushers to go run right past them and kill the quarterback. So anyway.
That's a good point, Jack. It's a good point. So, I guess I'll be pulling my hair out Saturday night. I don't know what else to say. It's going to be stressful. There's no way this is not going to be stressful Saturday night. No way.
Stressful.
No way.
Always stressful.
Always.
Play down to the component, play this way, play that way, find some area, special teams, something that's going to mess things up. To me, that's attitude. That's mindset. That's preparation. To me, that's done before Saturday. Saturday's just we see the result of what's happened during the week and what the mindset is. You know, Lou Holtz. One of the things about Lou Holtz, he was fearless. He was fearless, and the team was fearless. You know.
Yep, there's a lot. There's a lot to be said for that mentality, and if it comes from the head guy, it leaks down, and then that becomes the mindset and the vibe for everybody. I love that.
You saw how they played at Miami in 17, right? Fearful team, frightened to death because somebody threw a Coke bottle or somebody threw a water bottle or something. We know how lethal water bottles flying can be, but somebody threw something at the bus and everybody got upset. And the team came out rattled, and the crowd was too loud. And this Miami team, I don't know, have they even won a game since then? Have they even
Jack,
the game
that was the worst part of all of this. Is as bad as Miami's been, that night was the pinnacle of them fake thinking they were back, and we allowed the high point, and it's been nothing but downhill ever since. But their peak was embarrassing us, and I still hate it.
Oh yeah, no, it's gotta change. You know, the whole something's got to change. And when I say something's got to change, it's I'm talking about coaching. You know, O-line coach. I don't even know who he is. Quinn. I don't know. Never met him. Something's got to change. I'm telling you. I told you this last week. I go down to the supermarket sometimes, and there'll be a couple of old women, and I can't get around them. You know, like I put a couple of old women on the offensive line. I guarantee you the defenders won't be able to get to the quarterback. They'll sharpen up those elbows.
It's a different way.
Guys will go down.
It's a different way to block. Just be big enough that you're in the way.
It's a different way.
Perfect.
You let some of those sharp elbows hit a couple of defenders in the groin, and there won't be a problem anymore.
There you go. That's a new technique along the offensive line.
You know,
I like it.
It's attitude. It's
oh, geez.
Use what works.
Well, Jack, thanks for calling, and thank you for everything, man. You've been with this show from the beginning, and right after you found it, you watched a little bit of what I did, and then you go, you need to give me a call because I think we're going to be friends, and we are all these years since.
And I want to tell you something. I want to tell all your listeners something too. Thank you. That Always Irish is going to do bigger and bigger things. I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised and very happy at some of the upcoming things that Always Irish are going to be involved in. So I'm very happy that you're doing what you're doing. I have been since day one. That's why I contacted you in the first place. And we're headed. We're gonna return to the glory days, and they're going to be good. We're gonna have fun.
Beautiful, love it,
and
Jack.
We're going to win another championship, no matter what it takes. We're going to win another few championships.
Oh, that would be glorious. But Jack, thanks for calling, and thanks for everything, my friend. Have a good evening.
Thank you, John. Talk to you soon.
Take care. We're going to move to Brian. What's up, Brian?
Hey, John, what's up? How's your mom and them?
Everybody's well.
You would have your biggest redneck fan following a Pulitzer Prize winner, but that's okay. We can do it.
I kind of like that dynamic, actually. I love that dynamic.
You're welcome. He's talking about being from Alabama. I probably act like I'm from Alabama, so we'll go with it. And I listened to a Kelly press conference the other day, and he was talking about the offensive line, and he said, well, you kind of got what you got. Well, that's kind of where I'm at with the head coach's office. So I'm moving past. I can't take anything seriously until he's gone. I can't.
I understand that, but it's tough though. When is that going to come? He's got that extension for a bunch of more years. Some people don't think he's going to go through the whole time. And then what do you do with the next coach? Is it Marcus Freeman? Who is it? Who do you want?
Well, my nightmares that keep me up at night are, let's go to the extension. Was the extension put in place just for recruiting? Hey, he's going to be here 3 or 4 more years. Come on in.
Yeah, that could be. What does it run till? 24, 25, I think, is when that runs out.
I think 25, I believe. Well, here's one of the nightmares that keep me up at night. How much is USC going to throw at Freeman to be the head coach next year?
That,
and does he take it?
I don't know. In the position they're in right now, USC, they may think that's a bit too risky to hire a guy who's never been the head guy to come in there and clean up what a mess they are in. That is I've thought of this, and that's what I keep going back to is I feel like they may feel like they need a guy who's been there, done that to kind of calm things down out there. And I don't know if they're willing to take that gamble on a guy who's got to put out all the fires they have going on and how bad it is there and learn to be a head coach for the first time on the fly. That makes me a little nervous. Now, if USC hired Fickle away from Cincinnati, I wouldn't bat an eye. That would be a great move for them.
Yeah, I agree.
I've even heard about Franklin from Penn State. People are saying that they've talked. And there's debate on whether, Penn State's a big job and so is USC. But I've heard his name. I think that would be a good stepping stone for Fickle, a step up into the big leagues. I think that could be a spot for him.
Yeah, but like I said, my fear is what kind with USC being USC, how grand do they think it would be to steal Notre Dame's golden boy?
I'm hoping
that's what Freeman is right now, and would they worry about it?
I know.
Well,
and
as far as
it upsets me because he's my plan for when Kelly leaves. So if we lose that, and then I'm out there going, then what are you really going to do when Kelly's done? Because that's kind of my transition plan. And if that doesn't happen, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, because you're like me. You were a Notre Dame fan before Kelly. You'll be a Notre Dame fan well past Kelly. This is a bump in the road that just won't smooth itself out, and I look at recruiting the same way. I cannot get excited about 4 and 5 star kids if you're not going to develop them. I just can't.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And listen, Kelly's done a lot of good things. The thing with this is all about perspective. If a guy like Kelly has all these wins he has and was 98% of other schools, he would be their God hero forever, statue tomorrow, all of that. But it's different at Notre Dame, and it's good that it's different. It's okay that it's different. It's different because we won a lot. And you know who knows that? Brian Kelly. That's the most important thing. He knows that most win record isn't the same as Rockney's amount. Give me a break. He knows that. I'm just wondering how this ends. How does this end? Does he get one more competitive run, nationally competitive run, or in the next couple years, or what?
I think if he was doing that, why even dig into the transfer portal? Why not do what Ohio State did? Develop the quarterbacks you have on property. Because if you're going to get in the transfer portal, hey, let's get into it next year. I can think of a kid, big, tall kid that plays for Boston College. Seems like a decent quarterback. Why don't we go get him?
Isn't he out for the year? I think he tore up an ACL or something. I'm pretty sure Phil's out the whole year. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, we seem to didn't bother him last year. Oh, the kid ain't played all year, so let's bring him on in. Didn't hurt anything this year.
Kelly's inability to identify, recruit, and or develop a truly elite level quarterback may be like the number 1 or 2 negatives of his tenure that have stopped him from getting further than we have. I think that definitely has to be up there. What do you think happens Saturday night? How do you think we show up in this game?
with Virginia Tech being Virginia Tech and the way the game went down last time they were there, I think it's Miami 2017. I think it's rainy. I think the music scares them. They don't know who Metallica is. They're too young,
Yeah.
Except for the kid from Marshall. He's old enough. He might know. But, yeah, I think the negative environment scares them to death. And I think they crap their pants. I hope not.
I hope not too, but
fear.
it's a really rough time to go into this environment coming off of what you just did in the last game and all the personnel issues you have that go along with it. It's all a rough equation, and I'm really nervous to see how it's going to go. But Brian, thank you for calling. Call back anytime, my friend.
Hey, we'll see you, John. Have a good one.
Have a good night, man. I like that accent. Call back anytime.
All right, then. Here we go.
Take care. We are going to go to Hamilton. What is this? Hamilton, Ohio? 513? Who is it on the 513?
Hey, John, this is Ryan calling from Hamilton, Ohio. How you doing?
How are you, my friend? So what is that? Ohio State territory or what?
No, I'm actually about 20 minutes north of Cincinnati.
Oh,
dealing with the local media and beat writers. I'm up close and personal with it. It's been a brutal week.
How, honestly, talk me through that. How has that been? How was the lead up? I want to know from somebody in that market, what was the lead up to that game and what's it been like since?
It has been the cities. I mean, you look at Cincinnati sports, they haven't had any success in terms of winning big games. So they've called this, I've seen multiple beat writers call this the biggest win they have seen since they've been covering Cincinnati sports. And I took my son there. We're in section 19. I go there, I'd take my seat, and come kickoff, I feel like I'm at Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati. I mean, I am surrounded by thousands of arrogant Cincinnati fans, and it is so frustrating that our fan base continues to let this happen. I don't know what we have to do, but I mean, it has to stop.
Yeah, it was a rough dynamic. It was just a rough look and a rough performance. And so were the Cincinnati people ultra confident before? Like, were they totally like, we're going to do this? Or were they just running their mouths because they finally found a fan base that cares enough that they can do it too?
Well, they felt confident because Cincinnati does have some elite defenders. Sauce Gardner, I knew coming into the game that was going to be a challenge to be able to try to throw on that kid. He might be a first-round pick. They do have, very, very tough defense to move the ball on. So they felt confident. And honestly, if you're an opposing team, you would feel confident going into a game against Notre Dame simply because of, the issues that we have on offense. If you can score 20 points, I would say you're feeling pretty confident going in. That's a pretty solid game plan that you might beat us at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. So how's it been since the game? Worse? Like with your family, friends, work in that area? Are you just taking crap from every angle or what?
It's been brutal. I mean, every day, it's my best friend's actually a Cincinnati fan. So it's a continued struggle each and every day. I'm just ready for Saturday. I'm ready to, I hope Cincinnati has a huge hangover against Temple on Friday night and they lose. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
I thought of that too. But I had the same kind of thought you did though, in terms of I am ready to get to the next week to hopefully get a win and not have to feel the way I felt this whole last week every minute I'm awake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to kind of knock that taste out of my mouth.
Well, and I've been thinking, man, and I'm hoping I want to get your take on this with this offense and an option that we've done in the past, but we haven't seen it in a couple of years. Brandon Lindsay is a burner. And a couple of years ago, we gave that ball to him coming in motion, and he would hit the corner, and he was gone. You get him the ball in that situation, I feel like if we send him in motion, and I'm hoping Pine's the quarterback, he can either hand it off, fake it, roll the pocket right, and hopefully move that pocket to where it protects our offensive line from giving up sacks. And I'm thinking that would be a way to move the ball, you know, in terms of sending Lindsay in motion and then either handing it off or rolling right and trying to maybe have like a level play set up, getting the ball to Mayer. You know, I don't know. I've just been brainstorming all kinds of different things as to what this offense can do, and that's the only thing I can come up with.
But I like that. You're not overthinking it. It's a really simple concept. You get your fast guy the ball, and if he's on those, plays that go, behind the line and out to the side, and then he's gone, you're eliminating your biggest weakness, which is that offensive line. So as the further away you could get, to me, the situation we're in, the further you can design plays away from the line, the better we're going to be.
And it's such a shame because Tyree Williams and Sebo, might be the best three running back tandem in the country, and they're neutralized because they can't get any steam when they run into a brick wall every single play, and it's so frustrating.
I feel horrible for those guys because they could do some wonderful things and put up mega numbers and get a lot of national attention. It just ain't going to happen this year. Kyron Williams is in there blocking. He's in there blocking because you need him to.
Yeah.
And he's blocking well. Him and the tight ends are the best blockers on this team.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy.
Say, to the previous callers, Rip and Kelly, I mean, I have done my fair share of Rip and Kelly in the past, but man, I always go back to the grass is not always greener on the other side. I mean, we are one hire away from having like a Bob Davie, a Willingham, a White.
Okay, now wait. Time out. You're also one hire away from taking the foundation Kelly built and ramping it up and getting the final touches on what he's already built. You're one hire away from that too. That has crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Like, if Kelly doesn't get us over that ultimate hump, he has installed a foundation, done a lot of good things that could be building blocks to where whoever the next guy is, Marcus Freeman or some outsider, if they get over the top, Kelly's going to deserve a lot of credit for that, for doing the hard work all those years, building us a new recruiting program, the nutrition, the mental health stuff, like the basics, the training table with the dietitian and all that stuff. We didn't have any of that. Kelly had to go in there and start doing all that to get us caught up with these programs. So you're right. We're one hire away, but which way is it going to go? It's going to be a big hire. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think Kelly's going to stick around for, however much longer his contract lasts. And I'm hopeful that this team can compete, especially this year. I mean, it's wide open, I feel. Outside of Alabama, Georgia, I feel like it is wide open, but, unfortunately, that loss. And I tell you what, this game Saturday night is huge because if we were to lose, you go into that bye week, and then you got Southern Cal, who might have a lot of turmoil right now, but they still have elite athletes, and you could be looking at 3 straight L's. So we got to get this win on.
Well, here's the other thing. You can't go down this path. You cannot lose the way you did in horrific visual fashion to Cincinnati, then go on the road to the rock and roll capital of the world down there, Metallica, lose that game, and then go into a bye week to figure things out And then you're telling me you're going to come back and lose to a coachless team? That is strike one, strike two, strike three. John's out. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Like that dynamic can't happen. Those three things can't all go in a row. It just can't be. It can't be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm keeping the fingers crossed. I mean, with the rainy weather, that kind of has me a little concerned because, you know, that's obviously going to affect the passing game. So, I mean, God, I hope that we can find and establish a running game. I mean, look, I'm Tommy Reese's biggest fan. I named my kid after Tommy Reese. So, you know, I'm always going to cheer for.
Wait. No. What? What did you just say on this show? What?
I named my son after Tommy Reese. I was, man, I tell you what, in 2012 against Purdue, I was actually a stadium usher that year. So Tommy comes in late in the game to try to jolt us offensively.
I believe, refresh my memory. I think I was there too. Really ugly, kind of nasty, close game. We kick a field goal to win it towards the end. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And Tommy let us down the field, and we got that game-winning field goal. And I was like, man, that dude. I mean, just the adversity that he's faced. You know, getting booed and just coming in and I was like, that's how I want my son to be. So, yeah, Tom. And then it's kind of cool, man. You know, so I'm always gonna back Tommy, but we got. I don't even like you said earlier. It's hard to blame Tommy because you just don't know because of the offensive line. It all comes back to that.
Yeah, here's the tough part. This year, it's hard to judge because of the offensive line. Last year, you're going, okay, Ian Book's strength isn't stretching the field and doing all that stuff that we need more of, so you can't judge him based off not being able to do that. Like when do we get to a baseline where we could do everything okay enough that we can have a pure judge of what he is and going to be? I have no doubt he has a good football mind. Played football at Notre Dame. His dad's been a football lifer, a professional football lifer. He knows football. I have no doubt about that. But knowing it and having a feel for it in the moment aren't always the same thing. That's where I fall on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know, man, but that rain also makes me nervous. If it's going to be nasty there and we already can't run the ball, that makes me nervous. Your options are limited at that point of what you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, any idea how Virginia Tech's offense is? I haven't done much looking into them at all. So, I mean, do they have any type of do they have good backs?
From what I've read, it's a little bit of a struggle. They lost some of their potent offensive weapons. They do not run the ball as well as they are used to. The quarterback, what's his name? Burmeister, a little shaky. He's not a deep passer. He is more of a short intermediate guy, not afraid to run. Their offensive, it's not that, it doesn't impress me. They got the one receiver who's really good. I'm blanking on his name. You got to watch out for him. Defensively is where I'm surprised. They took that a step back after Bud Foster left. Then they got a new guy, and the defensive numbers are actually quite decent so far. So that's going to be interesting. I think you got two strengths versus strengths. Our defense against their offense, and then you have their defense against our offense. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm nervous.
Yeah, I mean, and really the inconsistency at the kicking game's killing us too. We're for some reason the past few weeks. Dora has not been as consistent as he should be. So I mean that could play crucial Saturday night as well.
Yeah, and you need that when you have this offense because you're going to be in more close games than you want to be. Even if you're better, even if you have better talent, you're going to be in closer ball games just because it's a struggle to move the ball. Got to make your kicks. Can't afford not to.
Yeah.
Can't afford not to. Well, my friend, thank you for calling. We've gone 2.5 hours, and that's going to be the show. So 2.5 hours is a good run. Thank you for calling. Call again after the game next week.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we went a full 2.5 hours. Here's the deal. Anybody on hold in queue that I did not get to, I apologize. Feel free to call back next time and I'll just bump you up and make sure that you get in right away. Here are my plans. We may do a pregame show for Virginia Tech. I do not think I could do a postgame show because in Illinois, Comcast does not get the game. I don't have a channel. I get 800 channels. We don't get the ACC network, and I'm not paying for Hula Hoop or any of the other crap people are telling me that I don't know what it is. Oh, John, just get the Hula Hoop or whatever. No, I want to turn it on TV. So I'm probably going to go to my parents' house who have AT&T so I can watch the game on a normal TV. That also means I will have a drive to get back to my place. Might make the timing on a post-game show hard. So, but I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I think for a soft launch of this radio show, couldn't have gone any better. I'm really excited to get into a rhythm with pre and post game shows. I really think that's going to be the bread and butter of this type of dynamic is traditional radio pregame and postgame call-in shows. So once we get by this game, then we're going to look into setting that up on an ongoing basis. So thanks again for all the comments, all the donations in the super chats, everybody who called. I feel terrible if I can't get to you and you're still on the line. Call back next time. I'll get you in right away. I got your numbers written down here. So if you do that, I will take you first next call bank. Good night, everybody. Go Irish.